Hey, what's up, family? Hope you're all are having a good day. If you're not having a good day, just know that the worst is behind you and tomorrow's yet to come. So we manifest our reality with our thoughts. So hold the best intentions that you can for your circumstances and watch how it unfolds in your favor. So just out here trying to catch last little bit of daylight in my walk and stroll. So definitely getting used to the seasons changing, and I do like the wintertime a little bit better than the summertime. Not, it is a little bit, I guess it's saddening not to be able to kind of come out here and go walking as frequently or as easily or even as late as I was able to when the days were longer. So, but you know, 'tis life and the cycles and the changing. So also too nice seeing the colors of the leaves on the trees, different colors as you walk through and take a look. You know, obviously throughout the summertime you have the typical green landscape, so but just kind of coming through now as they're changing, you know, seeing the yellows and the oranges mixed in with still the greens and the various shades of red and whatnot. It just makes you stop back and kind of marvel at Mother Nature and how this representation of even our own life of going through cycles, you know, that death, rebirth, so to speak. So, you know, even in the changing of the seasons and stuff, you know, still beauty within it. So, but got me thinking as far as on my journey, something that looking at as far as starting to love myself, I'm gonna pour into myself. I took a look to see what actions I was doing in order to pour into myself. So I was very much a people pleaser and doing things for other people because, and my viewpoint is I was the one that was strong enough, and you can maybe say egoic, but depending upon your viewpoint, but basically because I was so strong in my mind that could sacrifice whatever it was I needed to sacrifice that I wanted to do in favor of what the other person needed me. So in essence, prioritizing the other person and their needs over mine. So regardless of who it was, whether it be family, friends, you know, or remote romantic partners, the premise of my actions was prioritizing them over myself. So, and that went on for, like I said, up until maybe a couple of years ago, to where I really started taking a look once I started healing and doing the shadow work in necessary places in order to allow me to get to that level to really start viewing things. That's when I realized that I wasn't doing anything for myself, like specifically for myself. And that's where I started kind of taking a look to see what things, like what does Brandon want to do? You know, if he could have fun, go out and have fun, enjoy himself, you know, like what would he do? So I love music. So I think I mentioned in the last video where I came up with a list of 3 things kind of surrounded of my 3 favorite interests, I would say. Well, I would say 3 out of my favorites, though. But, you know, obviously movies, and then music, and then eat food. So I told you how I set up on a whiteboard. I would write the 3 items down, and the objective is every single month I would do one of those things for myself, and it would be just for me, so I wouldn't take anybody else with me. It would just be me by myself, because the idea is spending time with myself, pouring into myself, doing the things, you know, that I want to do. So say maybe if you go out to dinner, you're used to going out to dinner with someone, and you want to order something. Say you like oysters, and the people you go out with don't like oysters. So every time you go out to eat with them, you can't order your oysters because nobody else wants them, or they're gonna rag on your, or just insert whatever rationale there. But so you wind up never ordering them, even though you're going out and paying money for the dinner. So, but when you're by yourself and you're going out and you're enjoying that, there's nobody there to tell you that you shouldn't get that, or they don't want to eat that and whatnot. It's basically whatever you want. So, how would you pour back in yourself? So what are the things that you wanted to do that you've been holding back on yourself from doing because of maybe prioritizing other people and their needs over yours? So some people can say that it can be selfish, and that's being selfish, but at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with being a little quote unquote selfish for yourself, because at the end of the day, if you don't have anything to pour into anybody else's cup, if your cup is empty, then how is it that you can sustain that momentum and keep showing up in this reality the way that you're supposed to, or that you want to, if you're constantly pouring from an empty cup? So I've fallen a little bit off the wagon, so to speak, as far as doing that for myself. So I did some pretty big events for myself. So I guess maybe I just took my foot off the gas a little bit. So, but I mentioned in one of the other videos that I did take myself on a vacation. So growing up, because we lived in the Midwest, our trips, our quote unquote family vacations, were trips from the Midwest to the East Coast to visit family. So we never went anywhere for an actual vacation that didn't involve visiting family. So there's a location that came up that seemed to constantly repeat itself in my reality via conversations with other people, movies and whatnot. So I booked a vacation to go there and went there by myself. It's about a 5 or 6 hour drive for me. So it was definitely interesting being on the road, by myself, listening to YouTube videos, like kind of riding around, but then too, sitting in silence as well from time to time. There's a nice cabin on this farm at this location, so it was out in the woods, kind of secluded, I guess you would say. So the idea was basically going out there. I messaged all of the family members and the friends that I do talk to, and just let them know, hey, I am on a vacation, so I'm disconnecting for the time that I'm out here. Everything's fine, etc., etc. So at least they know I just didn't fall off the face of the earth, so to speak. So, and for the most part, well, I don't say for the most part, there were some people I didn't contact, and there were some that I did, but the ones that I did, they did respect my wishes in not reaching out to me. They're the ones that mostly contact me anyways or message me. So, but it was a nice trip. So, especially being the first time really going on vacation, especially by myself, not knowing anybody around where I was, but I just trusted in the process that if I set the intentions that I'm going to have a good time and I'm going to experience what I need to experience in that moment, that it will happen and it will manifest, and that reality will manifest for me. So definitely was a good experience. There's some things that happened while I was there, as far as there were some exhibits and whatnot. So we always hear the term synchronicities and stuff. So there was definitely some interesting synchronicities, I guess what I'd say, not interesting things, but some interesting synchronicities that happened while I was out there that I've got to kind of sit with and meditate on. But the idea was going on a vacation. One was the first for me that was a vacation. You keep me looking back. It always sounds like somebody's behind me or something. But going on the vacation was the first for me that was just strictly for myself, that it wasn't something that I was doing for somebody else, or taking a vacation for somebody else to celebrate them. It was something to strictly celebrate myself. And I have to say, I did it for a week, and I have to say, I had had a blast. So, you know, they had a hot tub there, so I got to be able to enjoy that, sitting outside looking up at the stars and stuff. So, but then outside of that, in June or July, I did go to I flew back to the Midwest to visit some friends, and went to a concert there where there was a bunch of, once again, synchronicities, especially in the songs that were utilized at the concert. So, but the idea, you guys know me, I can talk and get on a tangent and stuff. So, but the idea is finding out what are the things that you enjoy doing that you maybe haven't been able to do or can't do because of other people's objections in your life. That if you had the opportunity and it was just you, then you would do those things. And I would invite you, if you're comfortable, you know, drop them down below. You might find some other people that kind of enjoy those things, and we can all bounce ideas off each other as far as ways to leverage our activities and get even more enjoyment out of it, so to speak. So, but the idea is taking that time with yourself, finding out what things you truly enjoy that, like I said, with the example of the oysters at the dinner, that you've wanted to do or you tried to do, but it came to the other people's objections that didn't allow you. So, you know, taking a look at those things, figuring out what they are, and then setting kind of a routine, you know, a monthly routine, or maybe every couple of months, you know, whatever the routine looks like for you, you know, for you to decide and determine for yourself. But the idea is whenever that date comes, or as you approach that date, you know, doing what you need to do in order to schedule the appointments, or, you know, say if you want to go bungee jumping and it costs a decent amount, you want to save up money for that, so you know that you've got 2 or 3 months to do it. So it just gives you a goal or something to work towards. But the idea becomes basically doing whatever it is that you need to do to start pouring into yourself, to identify what areas that you haven't been pouring into yourself, so that way you can set your own routine. So like I said, for me, you know, I have more than 3 interests, but I just picked my top 3, which was movies, music, and food. And that was my goal. So, you know, I figured at a bare minimum, I could take myself out to Longhorn Steakhouse, or, you know, some restaurant, and meet one of those needs, even if it's just Applebee's. You know, I could go out to one of those restaurants and I could fulfill one of my ways that I pour into myself without much, you know, quote unquote hassle. Not to say that I wouldn't go out of my way for myself, but it just gives you an example. So one of it was going out to eat. So, hey, you know, I'll set an appointment for me to go to Applebee's, you know, give me some riblets. They still got those. So it's been a minute since I've been there, but I remember growing up, we used to tear them riblets up, man. That's all we used to eat Thursday night after leaving the Kingdom Hall and stuff. We would go out to eat with a bunch of the friends there. Like I said, I know they hated to see us when we came and stuff. So, but that was one of the ways. So the other way too is, like I said, music. So when it comes to Ticketmaster or various venues, you know, I'll set up mailing lists and follow certain artists and stuff. So once I see they're going on tour, then I make a habit of purchasing tickets to go. And that's one. There was the Sasansa tour with the Perfect Circle and Pussifer and Primus and stuff. So that was the first concert that I bought tickets to and went solo with myself. So, and that was definitely an experience, because I've been so used to going to things like that, but going with someone else as kind of a support, so to speak. So it was definitely interesting going for myself for the first time by myself. So, and it was an enjoyable experience. So it took me, like I said, a little bit getting used to. So, you know, obviously it'll get better and better as you get more comfortable with it. So, but then also, you know, movies. So we've got a pretty cool movie theater that's not too far from me. And so I do try and keep my eye out on what movies are coming out. So that way, if I see one that I do enjoy, then I'll make sure that I do go check it out at that theater. You know, and that's another item that I can check off my list as far as self-love. So the idea is finding out what it is that you like and that you've not been doing because of prioritizing other people above yourself. So, if you could prioritize yourself for a day, what would you do? What would you say? So, and once you find those things, I encourage you to put in the needed work to at least do something and show up for yourself at least, once a year. So, like I said, I encourage once a month, at least once a month, if you can do it. But, obviously, I understand the circumstances right now, and, some is better than none. So, I just don't want you to forget about yourself, which is easy today with how fast-paced everything is. They're always keeping us on the go. Never have time to really slow down and really think about things. So that's always been kind of a theory with me as well. So for one day I was riding in the car and stuff, and I was just wondering if maybe with the constant distractions that are going on and constantly, radio was first. So if part of that had something to do with, breaking the silence, so that way you wouldn't have time to think about things, because in essence, as soon as you get to thinking about things and you would turn the radio on, or the radio playing would basically take away from that. So, but I don't know. No, I probably didn't do a great job of explaining it. So, but just they always say sit in silence and you'll learn who you are. And going within. So, and obviously with the radio playing, you can't do that. So, but save that conversation for another day. So, the idea and the whole purpose of this, like I said, was just about finding out what you have been not prioritizing in your life because of prioritizing other people. So that way, you can put in a routine to start prioritizing yourself through whatever it is that you've been wanting to do, but you haven't done because of what other people have been, or how other people have been showing up in your life and not allowing you to do or not wanting you to do. So, but all right, family, I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of this walk. So it's getting a little darker out here. So I forgot my gimbal today, so sorry you guys had to deal with the old wobbly phone, but I was trying to break my neck. Well, let me not say that, but I was just trying to hurry up and get out here before it lost some daylight, or lost all of the daylight, so I could make a video. So I guess it's the universe also put me in a place to where you have to conform. I don't want to say conform, I don't know if that's really the right word. So like I like making these videos and stuff while I'm walking out in the woods. So it's like I'm creating a subconscious block inadvertently in myself by only feeling like I can only make videos while I'm out here walking in the woods, just because it feels at home and feels natural. There's other environments or other places that I can make videos from and feel probably just as comfortable. So it's like the universe has put me in a position to where I realize that and then adapt. So I guess you got to have a little example right there, just kind of how I go through and I think through processes and stuff. So, and just in that moment, I was asking that question and just went through that realization and stuff. So, and that, to me, that's what it's all about. It's not no hocus pocus or no craziness that people maybe sometimes make you want to believe as far as what shadow work or what internal work does. But, in essence, just that was, in my opinion, kind of an example right there, that I just kind of went through with the realization. So I can't force, just because I like something, I can't force it to continue on that way. I have to adapt. Universe wants us to adapt. Not to say you can't have it, but, everything has its cycles and its moments. So, but, all right, family. Well, that's it. So I'm going to kind of finish thinking out as I finish this walk out. So, but definitely just want to let you guys know that I love you. I love you. I love you so much. So found me a nice fat chunk of smoky quartz from this local spiritual shop So I picked that up, and it seems like that's the one that I've been kind of gravitating to. So definitely a grounded energy, and just want to pass that on to you all. So like I said, hopefully this video found you in good spirits. If it didn't, just know that it's going to get better. And I'm sending you so much love, sending everybody so much love. So I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you so much. And have a great day.